right, hello everyone. Welcome. So, how was everybody's day? Good to see you guys on TikTok. Lexi, Tanya, Boo Boo, Sebastiania. Really good to see you guys. Welcome. So, if this is your first time joining me, my name is Tina. I'm a happiness coach. I help people going from being in a dark, depressed, anxious, suicidal kind of state to being in a happier state. So, today's topic that we're going to be talking about, I think you're really going to enjoy, is how to get back up after a failure. I am an expert at this. Why? Because I fail a lot, but my most redeeming quality is that I keep getting back up. So we're going to focus a little bit on various points. I'm not going to go to some of the lowest lows. You can check out my YouTube channel if you want to hear some of the other stories that I've shared. Regarding how I've survived sexual abuse, childhood trauma, and how that impacted my life as I grew up, and how it impacted me in my adult life, even years after, with multiple years of therapy. There's different layers as you grow. There may be other things that come up, and then you discover certain things. So healing is an ongoing process. Aw, Ashley, thank you so much for the gift. I appreciate you. So healing is an ongoing process, and it's actually a good thing. So embracing the failures, embracing the challenges that you have is part of this journey. And all the most interesting points in my life are also backed up against the most painful points in my life. So if you are going through one of those painful, challenging times in your life, I encourage you to just hang on, that you will get through this, and just keep showing up, doing the best that you can each and every day. So I'm going to share with you, because how I share on my channel is this is real life experience, usually stuff that I have recently gone through, just to keep it fresh. And then sometimes I will also talk about distant situations that I've been through, just to give you a bit more context and other examples. So one of the ones that I want to talk about is breakups. Breakups are really freaking challenging. They can leave you devastated and wondering about your value, about your worth, all of those kind of things. So back in 2002, I had been dating a guy for a little while. We'd been on and off. And his family didn't really like me. Well, actually, his kids loved me, and I loved being there for his kids and stuff like that. But he was a bit older than me, and there were lots of whispers from his mom, like, you've already had your kids, like, let this poor young girl go, let her go live her life, and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And I was quite content. I was at his place all the time. We were on a farm, and his kids were really, really attached to me. His dog loved me more than him, which upset him. I loved being able to cook and do all that kind of stuff, all those kind of things. It was pleasant in that way. We went to things like country fairs, and I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. But he also wasn't very thoughtful or very giving or anything like that. And I would try to encourage, I'd try to talk, because I had done a lot of therapy work, and he kept talking about his ex-wife a lot and all of those kind of things. So I don't think he was fully over her. And so when my birthday had come around and it had come to pass and nothing was done, no card, nothing, like absolutely nothing was done. And I was like, okay, you know what? I've really had enough this time. And because it's like we had talked and stuff like that. And I finally said, you know what? I do more on you on a given Wednesday than you did for me on my birthday. And I deserve better than that. And that was a huge step. So it was painful as fuck, but it was a huge step for me to actually set that boundary, to value myself over the opinion of somebody else. That was the very first time I think I really ever did that. And it hurt so bad. I remember, thankfully, I had a friend. I went over to her house. I cried my eyes out in her lap. Just, I didn't think I was ever going to recover from it. And she was like, she was trying to hug me and she was trying to love me. And I was like, nobody's ever going to love me again. And that's how I truly felt at the time. I was in my 20s. So, and I thought, you know what, this is it, it's over, I'm never going to find love again. And little did I know, I, cried my eyes. I really processed those emotions. I felt them to the fullest rather than intellectualizing it. And when I had felt them and really got them out of my system, and I didn't try to hold that back, that allowed me to kind of pick myself up and dust myself off. And for the first time in my life, instead of, I had previously, before that relationship, I had gone 5 years from being in a relationship and I was too afraid. And then I had finally tried again, and then this happened, and then I was like, it was like a knife twisting in my heart. And I was like, damn, I thought this was going to work. And but instead of my typical 5-year sulking pattern that I would have after a relationship breakup, I actually jumped onto an online dating site, and but this time I was like, okay, you know what? All this other time I was letting my heart dictate whether or not I got into a relationship, and I was like, fuck this. I'm going for pure intellect. That's it. No touchy-feely stuff, nothing like that. It's like, you better check some boxes or that's it. So by June, I had met the next guy that I was with, and we actually ended up getting married by Christmas Eve that year. And it was not bad for a rebound. It was a 20-year rebound, so as far as that goes, it was a pretty good run. And it was very much a different type of relationship. So not as much of my heart was engaged, though, because I kept that much more intellectual of, okay, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs, he's not violent, okay, cool. We've got some things going here, okay, we can talk, that's good, we have fun together, that's good. And like I said, it was a good run, but there were also some other things that I did see that I chose to ignore because I thought they were manageable. So I took an approach of more like finding a job. You go for a job application and it's like, okay, hey, you're gonna do all of these particular things. Are you okay with that? And it's like, maybe there's a couple that you're like, I don't really like to do that, but I know it kind of comes with the job, so we'll go ahead with that. So I did that, and I know my ex is actually listening here, but we are good friends. Of all the things, we've still managed to stay good friends. And in fact, that was one of the things we had changed in our wedding vows. It wasn't, a death till you part. It was, we promised to always be friends. And even with the divorce, we are still friends. So there is that. So when you're going through that kind of stuff, whether it's a breakup, making sure that you have friends around you, doing something different outside of your regular patterns is another way to help pick yourself back up, right? So I'm not recommending going out and doing a rebound or whatever, but if you were like me and you had like a typical 5-year sulking period, that was part of the challenge. And actually, I wasn't in my 20s. I was actually 32. So I think some of it was a little bit of urgency. So I felt like I had to hurry up because it was very important to me. I really wanted a family. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted all the things that I saw all my other friends having. And so I was very methodical about how I was picking a partner, and I thought I was doing okay. And then after we got engaged, there were some things that maybe would have changed things a little bit. Um, so being aware of those things when you go through that breakup, right? It may feel like the lowest point of your life. Just know that it is not, and that you just keep taking the steps around whatever the next step forward is, and looking to find your own worth in the situation and sticking with that. And sometimes it's the hardest piece is to actually stick with that. Because I know even after I broke up, like I still had this panic feeling like I wanted to go back, and but it came from a sense of neediness, knowing that, feeling like, oh, if I was just back with him, everything would be okay. And since I've done a lot of recovery work and healing work since then, I know there's a big difference now. I am not who I used to be back then, where yes, it can hurt to lose people in my life, but it's not coming from this place of if they were just back, it would make me complete. That's not the case at all anymore, even despite more recent pains that I've been through. Because one of the problems that I had happen during the marriages, I ended up losing myself, and I think my husband also ended up losing himself in the process of the relationship. So we were both not being our most authentic, true selves, and we were just coexisting together. And I think that is a worse, more painful feeling than not having yourself. There's nothing that'll make you feel more lonely than losing touch with who you are and not liking that part of yourself, or when you look in the mirror and you can't even recognize yourself anymore. That is something that is extremely painful, and it's a slow burn, it's a slow death, and that's not something I ever want anybody to go through. So just know that if you are going through challenges, that you are worth the fight for you. You are worth hanging on to no matter what, even if that means losing everybody else around you, okay? Because it can be extremely painful that you're a shell of a person walking through life, not really living it. So now, this all has to do with the mindset that you have too. A shift in your perspective can change things drastically. It's just know that your happiness is not going to come from outside of you. Whether somebody is with you or not with you, it's how you perceive it that will actually change the weight of the load that you bear. And it can make it more painful or less painful, depending on which lens you are viewing it through. So learning to change that perspective is one of the biggest skills that you can do. So some of the things that I've done to help me through when you're feeling that feeling of, you just want that person back in your life, is one, operating, it's like, well, what if I knew I was going to see them next week? What would I do differently, right? If everything was okay, how would I operate? And operating from that kind of place is kind of like, oh, okay. You kind of trick yourself into, so if you're going to gaslight yourself in a positive way, okay? In getting you to do the right things for yourself. So it's like, okay, if you have to lie to yourself and tell yourself, oh, they're coming back next week, and this is what I would be doing if I knew that they were coming back next week and everything was fine. Okay, then do that, right? Do those things to keep yourself moving forward. The other thing is you can look at how did this happen for you? Because a lot of times, like a friend of mine, she had talked about how she had gotten fired from a job, and she had worked really, really hard at it and everything. And I was so worried about her because at the time I thought the most devastating thing that could ever happen to you was being fired from a job. And she gave me the most interesting perspective that, yeah, how did this happen for me? She gave me the most interesting perspective of, that she was like, you know what, it really hurt, it really sucked, it was a blow to her self-esteem. She felt like she wasn't good enough, that, hey, maybe she would never get another job, and she just sucked, and all of these kind of things went through her head. And what she ended up realizing was they actually did me a favor. They did for her what she could not do for herself, because she had a very driven mindset, that she would never quit, never give up. And so because of that, it's like she still ended up acting out badly, but she wanted out, but she couldn't admit that to herself. So when you're in denial about how you truly feel, you will act out in certain ways to try to cause an event to happen. And I remember her sharing too that God will use the good and bad in all of us to serve his purpose. So if you're not letting go of something, and you need to be letting go because you need to be over there somewhere, or you need to be doing something else, God's going to send somebody in with just enough to get you to let go. Now, if you're extra stubborn, that person's going to have to be extra mean or something like that. So, and I have been more than stubborn in many, many cases. Part of my charm, actually. It's not something I'm willing to let go of. So, and the thing is because of the environments I grew up in, my resilience level is fucking epic. Okay, it's really, really high. And yeah, I get some sort of sick, twisted pleasure out of knowing that I can handle a beating really well. That doesn't attract the best people into my life sometimes. But that being said, it takes a special kind of crazy to achieve great results. So, but in hearing her share that perspective of, because what that did, it forced her out of a situation that once she was out of, sometimes you don't know just how bad the situation is until you've actually been pulled out of it. And you're like, oh shit, that really was not good for me. I really wasn't happy in there. I didn't even know how unhappy I was in that situation until I got removed from it. And then then it's now safe enough to feel what it is that you were feeling, because while you're in those negative situations, you're in survival mode. You're shut down from your emotions. You're cut off, because if you truly allowed yourself to feel those emotions as you're going through them, then that could be very threatening at the time, or you might be choosing to shut down those emotions because it's too dangerous for you to feel that, or it would cause negative consequences that were a greater fear, right? Maybe it's not for what you're going through, but maybe for the people around you, right? Those kind of things can happen. And as you're going through your lowest points in your life, reaching out, even if you don't believe, I double dog dare you to reach out and pray, just to prove me wrong, okay? I just pray to whatever God, whatever entity, universe, try to qualify it a little bit and say, it's got to be for your best interest and your best good, so you don't draw anything negative to you, okay? Because that would not be a good thing. Not that I'm a big believer in that side of things, but I don't know enough, so hey, I'm not gonna, it's like I've watched enough horror movies growing up as a kid to know that you don't mess with the Ouija board in the basement or you open up a portal to hell, and I don't want to be responsible for unleashing hell on the world. So, therefore, I do not mess with any dark arts or anything else like that. Okay? So, these kind of things, these negative things that happen in your life, a lot of times it ends up being our feelings of happiness, or the depth of the pain that we feel is often how we are viewing the situation rather than the situation itself. Okay? And that can be the hardest thing, because we can't see our own mindsets all the time. We can't see what's going on with ourselves. And so sometimes getting into a new environment can give you a different perspective. It gives you a chance to step back, and you can view things in a different light. So, for example, and we carry things with us. So this is I'm gonna talk about, so when I was 16, hey Paula, oh good to see you. I miss seeing your TikTok lives. I haven't seen you on for a while. Oh, thank you so much for the gift. You're so sweet. If you guys haven't seen Paula, go check out her channel, follow her. You don't know, Paula, how much when I was going through my darkest times and I felt alone, just listening to your TikToks, your lives meant so much to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, from the bottom of my heart. You are a big support to me, and I appreciate you. So thank you. Yeah, so, and all the tarot card readers, there's so many that I listen to, just going on and listening to them, and even though I'm like Christian and stuff like that, and tarot's supposed to be a no-no, these people, they freaking saved my life, and I appreciate you so much. And sometimes just listening to the readings are just like, it's a telenovela, I tell you. It was like my guilty pleasure of listening to these things and just giving hope and a no pressure environment. So thank you, thank you. So, yeah, so when I was 16, I dropped out of high school because I was in such a hurry to grow up. I did not want to be... First of all, I was living with my boyfriend, with my mom, and I came home and they're sitting there doing drugs at the kitchen table, and I'm like, this is fucked up. This is really nuts. This is my life. And here I'm like the goody two-shoes honor roll student. And I was just like, you know what? What's the point? And it's like, there's no point in trying to be good. It can't be, I might as well join them. But I sucked at doing drugs. It did nothing for me, except give me the munchies, and I was already overweight, so I didn't need help with that. So I stayed away from it. It just really didn't do anything for me. So, I quit, and I started out, I got various temporary jobs, and I stacked on it, and I lied my way through it just to get my foot in the door, because as soon as I tried telling the truth at first, but nobody likes the truth. They can't handle the truth. So I said I was 16, and they're like, go back to school. And I'm like, no, I need a job. I need to work. And they're like, no, you should go back to school. And I was like, okay, fine. So I started to lie about my age, and I said that I was older. And so they'd give me a chance, and I didn't have experience. So I was a receptionist at one place. I went into a real estate office reception and did a bunch of different odd jobs and stuff like that. And I got fired a lot in the beginning because they were temporary jobs. It was like they needed help for a week because somebody was on vacation or whatever and stuff like that. So, it helped me learn at a rapid rate that I had to learn these different skills in different companies, in different styles, and I just kind of kept building on it. And whatever they taught me, it's like, okay, they taught me how to do invoicing. I had never done invoicing. Great, I can now put that on my resume. Even though I've been taught once, I knew how to do invoicing now. Okay, I knew this phone system. I knew this computer system because I had worked on those kind of things, and I kept building on those. Um, and so then I finally ended up, when I was 17, I landed a job that I stayed at for 10 years. And it was midnight shift, document control. Um, and I was responsible for filing a stack of papers like this. Hi, Sam. Good to see you. Yeah, I got my artwork in the background. It's my art therapy stuff. So, I had done these things, and I got in, and I lied because they asked me how old I was, and they were concerned that the guys in the warehouse would swear too much, and that might offend me, because the last girls that they had in the office got upset and they left, and I'm like, yeah, no, swearing is not gonna upset me. Aw, thanks, Sam. So swearing is not going to upset me whatsoever. And so I told them I was 21, I was 17. And then, like 3 days later, after I proved that I could do the job, I came back and I said, listen, I'm actually 17. I know I said I was 21, but I just wanted a chance. I said, so you can fire me now, or you can choose to keep me on. And they chose to keep me on, and I stayed there for 10 years. But during that time, because I had dropped out of school, and then I went back to, I went into recovery, I went into healing, and I started to do that kind of stuff. And I kept sharing with a friend that, I had this label that I was a high school dropout, therefore I was a loser and I was nothing. And I just couldn't get over the stigma that I had put on myself that I had dropped out of school. And the funny thing is she was a high school teacher, so she also did guidance counseling, and so she was trying to help me, and then she finally just got fed up with me, and she said, well, you can continue to complain about it, or you can just choose to actually do something about it. And I was like, huh. Okay, I guess I could go back to night school. And so because what had happened is I had developed this belief that I was stupid, that I wasn't smart because I didn't finish school. And that was the furthest thing from the truth. I was actually very smart. And it was only because of the trauma and the abuse and the stuff that was going on that I wasn't really focusing on what I was doing right, because it was always focused on all the things that I was doing wrong, and I was told over and over and over again that I was wrong, I was the weird one, I was the one that was too serious, I was this, I was that. And also, part of the reason why I quit is because I could get all of these good grades, but there was absolutely no hope of me going to university. My mom was a single mom, and she had no money to be able to be putting me through university. And so my only hope was to go out and get a job. And so why wait? When I was like, well, if I'm going to learn stuff, might as well learn something from an actual job and then go that way. And so, but because of doing that, because I went against something that was valuable to me, I actually love school. School is my safe place. And I excelled at it. And I often would do extra stuff over and above the school stuff. But because of this divide of, having my boyfriend who worked, and everybody, they weren't giving me any respect at home because I was the kid in school. And I hated that. I hated being viewed as the kid. Now I like the fact that I look young. They told me that would happen, but I didn't believe them when I was young. I was in such a hurry to grow up. Why? Because I just wanted that control over my life. And it just didn't seem to matter that I couldn't get that. So I decided to go back to school. I enrolled, and because I thought I was dumb, I went to the high school that was beside the high school. It was like in little portable buildings, and it was for the problem kids that had challenges with learning. So in drops this honor roll student, but doesn't have the belief in herself. Some common patterns that are still kicking around, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to deal with those. But so here's this honor roll student, but doesn't believe in herself, believes that she's stupid. She gets dropped back in. And the point of going back to school was because I wanted to go to university. I thought, you know what, the most helpful thing I've ever experienced is having a therapist, and I thought maybe I would go back and I would be a therapist or something like that. When I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher or a businesswoman, so now I'm kind of like, I found a way to combine all three here by doing this. So I went back to school and I worked really hard with trying to, because I took advanced biology, advanced law, and English. And when I got my transcript, I was like, oh, I didn't do too good in my grade 10 English class. Why? Because I was more interested in learning from the guys how to forge a note on how to get out of class by being able to forge your parents' signatures. So they were teaching me that stuff. That's what I was learning from the guys. Good times. But it caused my English grades to go down because I really wasn't paying attention in class with that kind of stuff. But so going back to school, the teachers in that school were amazing. And this is where I know that the power of love is so much greater than the power of fear, okay? Because it took so little encouragement just to help me. I believed, because I got a 56 in my grade 10 English, that I was stupid, that I was not good. And the thing is that wasn't the case. What I needed was the right encouragement. And this English teacher, she gave me guidance and she gave me encouragement, and she believed that I could do better, that I was doing better. And her belief in me, her faith in me actually really opened up. And I remember I wrote this like really great poem. I wish I had it. I don't have it now. But it really talked about the facing that dark side of you and being able to embrace that dark side of you. And rather than fighting it like it's an enemy, comforting it. And so, because I had all of this darkness that I carried inside of me, and I was so afraid that that was the real me, until I had to face that dark side of me with the light side of me, and actually love that dark side of me and forgive that side of me for the things that I had done wrong in my life. And it was in doing that that I actually found some integration within myself, and that I could love the good and bad in all of me. Because I mean, it's not really love if we only love the perfect things about people, right? We have to be able to love the not so perfect things, and that's what true unconditional love is all about. And if you haven't received that because you grew up in an environment like I did, where, and I'm not saying that there wasn't love, there was love, it wasn't perfect, and you know, but we were all wounded, we were all hurting, and hurting people will hurt people. And so sometimes knowing that we did the best that we can. Now, don't get this twisted, because I tried to get to the forgiveness piece without going through the proper process. And if you try to skip steps, you cannot find true forgiveness, and there will always be this residual resentment underneath. So you have to go through the stages of grieving to get to that level of acceptance and forgiveness. And so those stages of grief are, first of all, denial. So yeah, it's not that bad. It was no big deal. I know my mom did the best that she could. It's not her fault. Um, to having to actually feel the anger, and I resisted that feeling angry, and I still resist that stage of the process out of fear that I might become like the abusers that were in my life, and I try to avoid that feeling angry, and what ends up happening is you keep that dark side locked up in you, and then you end up blowing up, or you end up acting out, because that side of you needs that expression. It needs that ability to open up, so that, and if you don't show that, then you can't ever feel truly loved and truly fulfilled until you are vulnerable enough to show that darker, messy side of you. And if you don't, then you are robbing yourself of the chance. Now, you have to be careful, obviously, because I think a lot of the reason why we end up hiding that part of ourselves is because we had tried to open up, we tried to show that messy side of ourselves, and somebody else deemed it as unacceptable, told us that we weren't good enough, showed us we weren't good enough, any of those kind of things. And then it's not so much their behavior, but it's the fact that we took that on and we believe that. Now, if that happened in your childhood, you don't know enough to be able, and you don't have the cognitive or logical ability to be able to discern whether or not you should take that message on, right? Because if somebody looked at me and said, Tina, you're a purple unicorn, I'd be like, okay, I don't know what you're on, but maybe you might want to, come down off of whatever you're on, or clean your glasses or something, right? Because I'm clearly not a purple unicorn, even with the black light on in the background, because it's picking up the glow-in-the-dark effects of some of the paintings. Oops, this way, yeah. So, if somebody says something that you know to not be true about yourself, you don't take that on, you don't internalize it. But if there's something that you do believe about yourself, then when somebody says something mean to you, and it gets to you, it's because you've taken it on. You actually believe it to be true. Because there's been times where people will say really nice things about me, but I don't take that on, and I don't believe that. I, don't internalize that. Why? Because my belief of that I'm not, is something that blocks love, right? And same thing with the fears, that we take those things on because we believe it to be true about ourselves, and then we had somebody external validate that, and now that becomes more mounting proof that we have. At least that's what it is in our mind. The thing is none of that is true. There's fear and there's love. Love is the only thing that's real. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Everything is either a cry for or an expression of love. So if we find ourselves operating in negative behavior, it is because we are crying out for love, that we are in pain. And when we recognize that within ourselves, we can then learn to start to comfort ourselves and start to look at what it is, what do I actually need in this moment to give myself that comfort, that love, like no different than I would if I was taking care of a child that I loved. I wouldn't just say, suck it up, too bad, you're terrible, you suck, right? I would not do that. And yet I do this stuff to myself all the freaking time. So sometimes the lowest points in our life aren't created by the circumstances that we're going through. They're created by the mindset that we have. It's the view that we are looking at things through. Because there had been times where I was far better off, far better off in career, in finances, in everything that was going on for me compared to where I am today. But because my mindset is completely different, despite the external circumstances not looking like they should, I am so much frigging happier Why? Because I am actually valuing myself. I am actually believing in myself. And that means sometimes people who were used to me being a certain way now don't fucking like me. Why? Because they like the older, easygoing, nice, version of Tina. And I am still nice. I am still kind. I am still loving. But the only difference now is that I factor into this equation as well. Whereas before, it was all about whether or not other people were happy. As long as other people were happy, then I was good. It didn't matter what I wanted. And so having to learn that lesson has been a big challenge for me. And I've gotten a hold of this now, and I will not let go. I will not let go, because I know what that felt like to just say yes to everybody else and not saying yes to me. And so many times throughout my life, I can look back at, there were various things that I wanted for myself in life, but I was so worried about what everybody else was going to think about that. Would they get upset if I did something outside of what they wanted? And that meant my friend circle, like I remember one time in my early 20s, I talked about, moving and traveling and doing something different. And my friends, my family, they got upset with me. So I was like, okay, you should have a social circle around you, and you shouldn't leave everybody. That's not good. That's not healthy. You need a support system. But yes, it's good to have a support system, but that support system is not beneficial to you if the enemy is within you, right? That's the thing that needs to be removed. And it's not because that we are our own worst enemies, is because we have picked up programming along the way, that people have planted ideas that we didn't know enough, that we had the option to remove that no, I don't want that piece of code in the hardware. Thank you very much. Fuck this. This is going out. We're deleting this code. We're rewriting this. We're not doing it this way. We are now doing it this way, right? So it may take a whole lot, and maybe for a little while your operating system is offline like mine has been. But it's worth undoing that programming. It's worth saying, I'm not just going to operate in this way anymore. I'm going to create the code that goes in my programming now. And that meant I was offline for a little while. That's fine. Because the thing is I still have all of the code. So the skills and the things that I did before that I was very competent and capable of, they're still all there. And if you have been beat down and you're like, oh, I'm nothing, I'm at this lowest point in my life, remember, there were times in your life where you were not at your lowest point. If this is your true lowest, then at some point in the past, you were better off. You were on top of the world. You felt good. You had skills. You felt like you were worth something at one point. You can get back to that. You don't have to stay in this lowest point. And the one great thing of being at rock bottom is you finally have some solid ground. You can finally get back on your feet now. All you have to do is stand up. Dust yourself off and kind of go, well, shit, that sucked. Okay, what did we learn from this? Okay, how am I stronger because of this? What do I not want to ever fucking repeat again? What can I take from this? What strength can I borrow from this? How can I move forward from this? Knowing that all of the stuff you've learned up until this point, every experience that you've had, absolutely nobody can take that away from you. They can take away your house, they can take away your car, they can take away your money, they can take away your relationships, they can take away, even give you some health problems. But if you are still breathing, then you are still here, and you still have all of the knowledge that you have gained up until now. So if you survived up until this point, You have the ability to rebuild your life. You have the ability to get back up just one more time. And if all you can do is just, you can't even get back up, but you can maybe roll yourself onto your back so that you're facing upwards and you can see the sky and you're not facing the dirt anymore, then that's progress, okay? So where progress might mean something different than it used to be, okay? But you have to understand, where are you at? What is your progress from today? Was yesterday you were face down in the dirt and today now you can at least see the sky because you've rolled over? Great, good, that's progress. All right, now can you sit up? No, you can't quite sit up. Can you roll over to your side and just kind of push yourself up a little bit? Okay, great, that's good. Now what can you do? Okay, you have to catch your breath a little bit because that's still your sides hurting. Okay, that's all right. Take a deep breath. You need to sit, relax a little bit. Okay, good. Now, what can you do? Can you get on your knees now and maybe, like, push up from there, okay? Learn to move from where you're at. What can you do next? And make sure that you're giving yourself credit for it, that you're like, okay, I was able to do this next step. Okay, what's that next step that I can do? Okay, I need to be able to get on my feet. That's the goal, right? Don't try to set out, I'm gonna run around the block when you've been knocked down on your face, right? It's like, no, get yourself back up on your feet. Okay, I'm back up on my feet now. Okay, now what's the next step? Because now I have a different perspective from being in the dirt and face down in the dirt. You can see things more clearly, right? And if you don't believe me, go right now and lay on the floor face down. What's your viewpoint? What do you see from that perspective? It's very limited what you can see. Now stand up. Do you see a whole lot more options available to you? Okay, good. Now keep going with those kind of things. It doesn't matter how foggy things seem, right? It's like, what's that next step? Understand that you can get back up. And what ends up defeating us is when we go, yeah, but I'm face down in the dirt, or I'm still on the ground, and I used to be, in this higher place than I was, and I will never get back to that. You tell yourself those kind of things and it will be true. Instead of looking, you know what? I didn't even want to be on that ledge. Why the hell was I on that ledge in the first place? And it's because I was on that ledge, I lost my balance and I fell down. When really, I wanted to be over there on that grassy hill where there's flowers and trees, and I was climbing this rock mountain, and I don't even like mountain climbing. Whatever it is, like, I don't know, maybe you prefer swimming, or, you realize that, hey, I'm a fish, I like water, right? Or it's like, that was actually killing my spirit, and I didn't feel good doing it, but I was doing it because I thought other people would see me as successful, or whatever it is that you were doing, trying to get somebody else's approval. Really examine, why were you doing those things? Why did you operate that way, right? Because, like I said, God will take the good and bad in all of us to use it for His purpose, to help redirect us, to learn a specific lesson so that we might be able to help somebody else through that particular situation. And if you've been knocked down, it's because you have the strength to get back up. So keep getting back up no matter what challenges you face in life. Because, and I'll talk about this one. In my early 20s when I was at work, they put in this new computer system, and it was a fancy thing because we had been doing everything on paper. There were no computers in the office other than the main, those high-end IT guys. But in the regular office, you had to be pretty high up to be using a computer back then. This is back when people didn't have computers in their home. There weren't desktops available. It was like big stuff. And I think there were tape changes. Oh my God. So, they put this new system in, and we have been using it about a week. And I was trying to find a menu that I could update an address. It was something very, very simple. It shouldn't have been complicated. And I was trying to go in and out of the menu items. So you'd press one, you'd go in, and it would give you a list of different options. And then you'd back out, and then you kind of go in. And so I was just searching around for, what was available. And I came across one, and it did say mass delete. And so I was like, okay, I don't think it's in here, but I'm going to go check. Well, I hit the number, and the screen flashed, and nothing happened. It didn't go into a menu option. So I thought, well, maybe I hit it wrong. So I hit it again. And I was on midnight shift, and it was like 2 a.m. Yeah, I wiped out our database. And to my defense, they didn't have the "are you sure you want to delete this" options before. No, it was just like everything else on this menu screen had options to go into a menu. And this stupid thing, mass delete, you could just press the button and wipe everything out. And I'm like, well, you know what? I should be rewarded for the fact that I discovered this a week in instead of a year in. Because somebody else could have accidentally hit the number 4 key and wiped out the whole database. Not even trying, right? So, needless to say, I called the IT manager, and I told him what happened, and we wiped out the database. So I had to re-enter all of the stuff. So, but the funny thing is before that, why I told that story is before that, I was complaining. And I was like, it was such a terrible day. It was such a rotten day. Could it possibly get any worse? And sure enough, I wipe out the database right after. When you know that you're the reason for the new company policy. You got to embrace what you're good at, right? So there was that. So never challenge the universe to say, you know what, can it possibly get any worse? My life sucks so bad. No, do not make the universe say to you, here, hold my beer as we go and show you. You do not want to do that. Please don't tempt the universe to try and one-up you on how miserable your life can get. This is where you have to show some gratitude of like, well, okay, life sucks right now, but at least it's not this. At least it's not that. Whatever, have some fun with it. At least I haven't shaved my head with a cheese grater yet, right? Something absurd. Be silly with it, because I know when you're in that dark place, it can be hard when somebody says, "Oh, you have to have gratitude." Fuck you, is usually the response, because it just feels like nobody's understanding you. Nobody is caring what you're going through when somebody says, "Oh, you should just have more gratitude." It's like, you know what? Fuck you, buddy. You have no idea what I'm going through. That's what ends up happening. Whereas I'm saying, you know what? If you're in that dark place where you're not feeling good and, stuff is legit sucking for you right now, and that's okay. What I want you to do, how I want you to practice that gratitude is like, be sarcastic with it. Hey, at least today I don't have the shits or something crazy, okay? Like, just really embrace it of whatever it is. If you can't find true gratitude, at least play around with it and just make yourself laugh with it, and enjoy some dark humor, okay? To lighten the mood and just embrace the suck. kind of thing, right? And I don't know if that's just something I developed being in transport and logistics. There was always something going on. There was always challenges, problems, and it was also unacceptable to, you know, we'd have this joke, there's no crying in freight, right? So I learned to develop a fairly thick skin. I did that from my childhood, but then, developing that at an even more epic level in my transportation career that I had done for 30 years. And apparently that was too soft for me. So I jumped into online sales, entrepreneurship, and coaching because, hey, let's sign up for the Hell Gig assignment, and let's have that kind of challenge for us. So, and despite all of the challenges and hardships and my attitude, sometimes I am still here. I am still fighting, and I like that part of me. I really do. I really, really do. So, yeah. Guys, if you are at the lowest point in your life and you are going through hell, do not set up camp there. Do not hang out there. Just keep going, okay? And, get some sick, twisted pleasure out of the fact that the devil can't hold you, right? That you can't stop you, can't hold you back. And just know it takes so much more effort to beat somebody down, and eventually they're gonna get exhausted, because guess what? It only takes, I'm like an emotional camel. It's like the childhood I grew up in. You give me a crumb of love and attention and I can go months on that. You will have to fucking get an army to fight me, bastards. Okay, so bring it. Bring it. Try to beat me down. I double dog dare you. Okay? Life cannot get you if you choose not to let it. So fight that darkness. Tell it to fuck off. And if you're struggling and you need a little bit of a laugh, you need some happiness, you need whatever, you came in a little bit late tonight, go to my YouTube channel, Coach Tina B 125. You'll hear some of my story. Some of the stuff that I've been through is really, really hard, and it can be confusing when you see me, I'm happy, and it's like, well, like, what are you so happy about? Like, what have you been through? And it's like, it can be easy to perceive that, but I've earned these stripes, okay? So, and I hope that you can see the value of the struggles that you're going through right now, because they are forging that stronger version of you, that you are still here, you're still breathing. Aw, thank you so much, Peter. It's so good when I see you coming back every day. I love that. And just know that you can really, you can change your life around. That if you're going through these hard times, they don't last, okay? They don't last. And there's blessings in it if you start to look for it. And if you don't believe that there's blessings in it, then I take a page from my book. I challenge God all the time. I tell him off. He likes my sass. He thinks I'm cute. Because, and I've told this story a few times, but I had lost my cat one time, and I tried looking for my cat, and he was gone, and I got fed up, and I was still early in my journey with believing in something greater than my own strength. And I'm still more determined to rely on my own strength, but when I finally do get to my knees, I'm like, oh yeah, hi God, remember me? Yeah, I'm back and I need some help. And guess what? He doesn't hold it against me that I haven't talked to him in 6 months or a year or 5 years, whatever it is. It's still good. And even if I come back and I pray with sass or attitude, like I did with my cat, and I'm like, all right, if there is a God, because I didn't believe back then, I'm like, bring back my fucking cat. And I got my cat back that night. I was like, oh, okay. Okay, so we are on the same page. You do exist. Nice to meet you. So, developing that personal relationship with God, however you understand God, is really important, because if it's not a God that you feel that you can rely on, then what's the point of having that God? Okay? If you can't actually talk to God. And I'm not talking like, I don't do formal prayers. Sometimes I've gotten on my knees, sometimes I haven't. Sometimes it's just the thoughts that go through my head of talking with God, and asking for help and asking for guidance. So if you're not sure what to do next and you're in the lowest point of your life and you're struggling, I double dog dare you to just say, okay, this crazy bitch on the internet, she said to try this. I don't believe it, but I'm going to prove her wrong. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try it, and then I'm going to go back and tell her tomorrow that she's an idiot. Whatever. Go ahead and do that, please. I invite you to do that. I double dog dare you, okay? Because that's the kind of attitude I had. So, and if that's the kind of attitude I had and I can believe, then anybody can believe, okay? And whether it's real or imagined, I've given up trying to prove whether or not it's real or imagined, because all I know is it does give me comfort in the time, and if that is enough comfort to keep me here one more day, it keeps me from saying, you know what, this life isn't worth it, then I'm going to do that. I don't care if it's crazy. I don't care if it's made up and it's all in my head. Then that's what I'm going to do, because I'm still here, and I will be back again tomorrow night. I say 9 p.m.-ish, but the last 2 days it's been a little bit later. Sometimes this stuff isn't planned as I'm going out. It's like I'll write a couple of notes of, like, you know, some things that I want to bring up, or it's like, oh yeah, that's a good point, because if not, I'll go off on a tangent. It's not so much that I don't know my stuff, it's like I will lose track of the original point, and now we're way over here. So those are the kinds of things that I want to share, and hopefully you got something out of it. Hey Sam, love you too. Good to see you on here on TikTok. So guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope you got something out of it. If you want to watch the replays, you will find them on my Coach Tina B 125 channel, and you will see my artwork there. In the description, there is links for the artwork. If you like the artwork, you can purchase that in, you can get prints, you can get phone cases, skirts, journals. Whatever journals are great. You want to write and document as much as you can, especially if you're going through those dark times, okay? So guys, we will wrap this up for tonight, and we will see you again tomorrow. For all of those that are on TikTok that show up and keep coming back, I appreciate you. For those that give gifts, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I really, really appreciate you guys. It means a lot. Aw, thank you, Sam. And for those on Facebook, thank you for putting the comments. If you are watching the replay, type in #replay so that this can get boosted in the algorithm. Somebody else can see this and hopefully grab a little gold nugget to keep them going and to help them get up, right? If they're in that low point of their life. So guys, just keep coming back, and we're going to figure this out together, okay? All right. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.